Tamara, Jabi, welcome to episode 3 of the podcast.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. So for those tuning in, Tammy is a friend of mine. She's also an ex-client of mine, and she's the head of PR and communications at Sunday Riley, and also the contributing editor at Sherlock's Middle East. Actually, you know what? You can maybe introduce yourself a little bit better than I can.
Well, yes. First, we want to start by saying, yes, Roy is one of my very close and dearest friends. That's number one. Get that out of the way because I want everyone to know how much I
appreciate
love you.
that.
So I'm the head of PR for Sunday Riley. So I've been working in PR for over 10 years.
Cool.
I was at Dior Beauty before that for 7 years, and then I moved to Sunday Riley. And then when I was in Sunday Riley, I've been there for 2.5 years, I was work remote, so fully remote working.
Yep.
So because I was fully remote working and because it was a skincare only brand, which means we launched 2 products a year,
Right.
whereas Dior Beauty, I was launching 3 products a month. I had a lot more flexibility with
Sure.
my working hours and free time.
Yep.
And then Sherlock's reached out to me, and they're opening in the Middle East. They're
Cool.
they're a huge publication. They're the leading UK publication
Sure.
in the UK.
Yep.
And so they were launching in the Middle East, and they needed contributing editors. So they reached out to me. We met, I think it was last summer or 2 summers ago,
Yep.
summer. And then I started contributing for them. So pitching in pieces of content,
Cool.
either on social, on the website. And it's been really fun doing that.
Awesome.
And then I also got certified to be a fitness instructor as
Right,
well.
exactly. So you're also a bear fitness instructor
Yeah.
and training to be a bar instructor.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people get the two
I was about to
confused.
say, if you can explain the difference between the two, because I don't even know.
I know. Because every time I say, oh, I work at a fitness studio called Bear, they're always like, oh, so Pilates, bar.
Right. That's
And
what I
I'm-
thought.
I'm like, no,
Yeah.
it's not. Actually, we had a client once come to the studio, I think booked on ClassPass, not
Yeah.
reading the description.
Right.
And thinking it was
It
a
was a
Pilates.
bar class?
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, no, it's the complete opposite. So it's
Yeah.
high intensity interval training.
Sure.
Strength training.
Yeah, I remember I did a
conditioning.
class with you. I remember,
Yeah, remember?
how intense it was.
Yeah, you came to a class
I did,
of mine.
I did.
So cute. Yeah. So I've been a client at Bear for over 8, maybe now it's not been 9 years.
Sure.
Love the gym so much. I think
Cool.
it's such a fun class. It's
Awesome.
the only gym that I stayed extremely motivated to go consistently.
Sure.
And I think even when I was your client, I was like, oh, I'll definitely be
yeah.
fine with working out because I love
Right.
going to Bear.
Right.
And I'm a huge lover of group classes,
Awesome.
interacting with people.
Yeah.
It's very much my personality.
Sure.
So because I was very much into Bear, and I had this free time at Sunday Riley as well, I decided to take on this course, which
Sure.
is a group exercise leader course.
Cool.
With MeFit Pro.
Yeah.
Where I
Awesome institute, by the way. That's where I did my certification
and
as well.
remember, okay, guys, a hilarious story. It was Roy's birthday. I think it was your birthday. You're hosting a party at your house.
Sure.
And
Oh,
I
right.
had,
That's where you asked it.
remember?
Yeah,
I had
just
my
remembered.
exam the next day.
I just remembered.
And I was really contemplating not going to Roy's party. I was like, I need to study for my exam because I know that if I'm going to go to Roy's party, I'm going to have a great time. I'm
Yeah.
going to see my friends. It's
Yeah.
going to be a great...
Maybe
and then I
miss the exam.
And maybe miss the exam. But I was like, you know what? It's Roy.
Yeah.
He is the king of fitness and
I
health. I
appreciate
was
it.
like, great. I'm just going to go to Roy and ask him my questions in case I have any questions. And I was like, it's going to be great. So I remember going to your party and
Sure.
and then I was telling you I have this exam and you're so supportive and you were like, yeah, don't worry, you're gonna ace it. You're
Yeah.
so positive and you have this thing about you where you're just so encouraging.
I appreciate it.
And just warm, so much warmth, which leads me into why being your client was such a breeze and why I talk so
Thank you.
highly of you to other people.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Tim.
No, it's true because I find that it's that approach really sets an impact for anything, for everything,
Right,
for the way that you
right.
work, for the way that you are as a friend, for the way that you show up as a person
appreciate
to the
that.
world. So that aside, I became an instructor. I graduated from this training course.
Sure.
And Bear
was
were-
Rania over there at the time?
Rania wasn't, but I know Rania.
Okay.
As she's my family friend.
Oh, okay, no
yeah,
way.
so I know
Okay.
Rania, and I messaged her. I was like, I'm doing the course, and she wasn't there physically,
Yeah.
but she was also very supportive in doing that.
She's
amazing.
awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, so then I got my certification. I was so excited. Immediately, the Bear team took me in like that. They were
Awesome.
so supportive, and they're like, "Yeah, we would love to have you on."
Sure.
I did a few shadow classes, learned. I got trained with Bear with the team.
Yep.
And until now, I'm still a trainer with them. I
Awesome.
train once a week. I teach once a week.
Sure,
So every
sure.
Wednesday nights, I teach there. And it's just so much fun. I have a great time with my
Yeah, there you go.
clients.
I mean, if you're enjoying it and
Yeah.
you like it and
You
you're
know?
helping people get a workout in,
Yeah.
why not? Absolutely.
But there's a lot that comes with that. I know that we're going to dive into that,
Sure,
dive
sure.
into it, but I really enjoy it. And then now bar is a new passion project of mine because
Right.
I love to keep growing and
Yeah.
keep learning.
Awesome. Good for you. So
Yeah,
important.
you know, like
So important.
it's important to just
Yeah.
keep yourself challenged and
100%.
motivated and try something different.
Yep.
And I found this new love for bar Pilates.
Cool.
So it's basically Pilates work on the mat, but with the bar as well.
Sure, sure.
And the gym is called Physique 57. It's like it's an institute called Physique 57
Mm-hmm.
that's inside a gym called Cultivate Mind and Body
Okay.
on Umsakame. It's like a really cute villa.
Cool.
And they have it there. They're going to open more branches, but for now
Sure.
it's just there. And I'm still in my training course. I'm on my last 2 weeks of training. It's been over a month and a half of training, like so many hours per week. So
Right.
it's a lot of work, a
Right.
lot of learning, but it's really cool.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you. And are you doing these as a side project for now? Is it something that you potentially want to get into full time at some point? What is your
Yeah.
thought process behind that?
For me, it's definitely a side hustle, a passion project.
Yeah.
Not project. I don't want to call it a project because then that undermines what it is. But for me, it's definitely something I like to enjoy doing on the side.
Yeah.
I feel like if I make it my full-time thing, I will miss out on all the other things I also
Sure,
love.
sure.
I love a lot of things.
Right.
So I feel like I like being like wearing different hats.
Sure, sure.
And I like having the opportunity to dip in and dip out of different things.
Yeah. No,
So,
awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. And I wanted to ask you, do you think, well, first of all, how did you get into, your whole journey into fitness? If you can touch a little bit on that. And then if you think societal pressure to look a certain way, be a certain way, had any influence on this whatsoever? Because I know it did for me a little bit, but I'll get your opinion on that.
Well, for me, I think fitness and the love of fitness, I've always had instilled in me. So my dad is super into fitness.
Awesome.
Has always been into fitness. So he instilled that to the kids. My mom was active, like she loved to walk all the time, but she wasn't like necessarily into the gym all the time. But my dad was very much a gym guy, loved to row, was a huge rowing guy, entered competitions, like loved that stuff.
Awesome.
And growing up, he instilled that ethic of like, fitness and, working out. And the reason why he was so into it, I think, is because he had a lot of family members around him pass away or suffer through different medical issues due to a lack of being healthy in any capacity, not necessarily with weight or maybe diabetes, but other health issues. And for him, I think if we really dig deep into it, if I try to look at my dad from an outside perspective, I think he's dealt with a lot of different traumas from losing family members too early, which instilled in him that, okay, we need to be the healthiest version of ourselves.
Yeah. Awesome.
And so he instilled that into us kids. So we always were a fitness family, a gym family. We had like personal trainers when nobody else had personal trainers.
Sure. Yeah, your whole family. I mean, Todd is
exactly.
all you guys.
And now Wal is super into like running. He did his first half marathon, or not half marathon, 10K. Sorry, it was a 10K, but he was really happy and proud of that. And Tariq, as you know, is super into fitness. And Tariq's journey is an interesting one because he suffered from obesity and then others, anorexia, and then he went into his fitness journey. So he's also someone who's dealt with the ups and downs of fitness.
Right.
And now has found his like happy medium and happy balance. So
awesome.
For me personally, I've always been into fitness, been into like being active, but I played basketball in high school. But what got me really into getting into like working out and being healthy is the way that it made me feel.
Awesome.
In university, as you know, we went to the same city.
Wasn't the healthiest 4 years.
Wasn't the healthiest. What was it called? Mealtime?
Epic mealtime.
Yeah. Like that was a thing. If anyone doesn't know that,
don't even remind me.
Yeah,
I don't know how I survived those 4 years. I swear.
Roy was
I almost didn't make it out.
It's like a pizza on top of a burger, on top of a nacho cheese, and like you used to actually make those with your friends
and enjoy them as well.
Oh my god, it's crazy. So like that was like the culture, You know, obviously we ate a lot in university, and
Yeah.
like I don't regret that at all
Yeah.
because it was
I mean, it was what we sort of had to do at the
exactly.
time. Yeah.
It's a period.
It's a period of your life. You have to go through it,
Yeah.
right? Those 4 years are the first 4 years that we're sort of like on our own, away from the
Exactly,
family
like,
in a new
oh,
city.
Cook for yourself, but don't actually cook. Just order chef on
Exactly.
call.
Yeah.
You know, like that was like the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in university, obviously appearance started to play a role into like my thinking and like
Sure.
spring break
Sure.
and wanting to look a certain way before we go to Punta
Sure.
Cana
Yeah,
and like
yeah,
making
yeah.
sure that. So then I got into a few like crash dieting.
Right.
Even in high school, actually, before prom, there was like the GMO diet. I think it was called. You have soup for like 3 days.
Sure.
There's all these different things, and being a woman as well.
Right,
Like
right,
you're into these like crash diets, but I never let it really affect me and my confidence that much.
Sure.
I feel because I was, you know, my parents always instilled confidence in me.
Good.
To be
Awesome.
to be proud of myself and to be it's like think it's okay to, and you're so beautiful and
Awesome.
you're strong, you're smart. So I think this is something I'm learning. I mentioned this to Lana on the podcast. I'm trying to learn these like little tips that
Yeah.
that make me who I am today to instill in my inshallah future kids.
Sure.
Because
sure.
I would love
Awesome.
to. And it's hard because you have this like social media and you have TikTok and
Yeah.
Instagram. Like that is a whole other world. But anyways, going back to why I started into my fitness journey, it's just fun. It was purely because it's so much fun.
Awesome. Good for you.
I love it, and I thought it
Yeah,
was
that's
great.
not a common reason that most people start.
Yeah.
It's usually something based on, they want to look a certain
Yeah,
way.
I mean, definitely want to look a certain way.
Yeah, obviously most people want to look a certain way, but
Yeah.
usually people are getting into it more from a desperation
Yeah.
side more than an inspiration or
Yeah,
fun
exactly.
side. Which it should be. It should be fun. It should be that's why you're doing it.
And that's what you sort of helped with in terms of like the food. It should be like an easy, approachable way of looking
Absolutely.
at how you eat.
Absolutely.
So my biggest thing is I never have an issue with movement. I have never have an issue with working out.
Sure,
Like
sure.
you don't have to tell me twice to go to a
Right,
fitness
right,
class.
right.
I love it. I think
Yeah.
it's so much fun.
Sure.
I always say this. My love language is fitness classes.
Yeah.
Like if someone says
Awesome.
we'll do a class together, I'm like, yes, sign me
Yeah.
up. But it is the food aspect.
Yeah.
It's all about, I mean, you taught me this.
Yeah.
It's all about your food.
Sure, sure.
And I can tell.
Yeah. So
It's all
nutrition
about
is a
food.
huge portion
Yeah.
of health in general.
Yeah.
Fitness, whether it's certain fitness goals you want to achieve, whether it's weight loss or weight gain or muscle gain, whatever it may be, nutrition plays a huge role in it.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And I think the way that you kind of broke it down for me when I was your client made it so digestible, so approachable, so understandable in a way where because as I told you, I've always been into fitness, nutrition, wellness. Like it's always been part of my life.
Yeah.
But the way that you broke it down really
Yeah.
made it more, it made it attainable.
I appreciate it.
Whereas before it was like, I'm trying to reach a certain goal
Yeah.
that just was so far fetched. I'm like, oh, it's
Yes.
too far. Like
Right,
you give
right.
up halfway. Like in
Yeah,
the beginning,
yeah.
you're super motivated, then you give up halfway.
Right.
But I think that your approach just made it more. And again, going back to your warmth and the way that you approach things,
Thank
it just
you.
makes it like a happy, enjoyable place. And I feel like I can achieve it.
Right,
And
right.
you almost, well, not you almost, you absolutely do empower your clients.
I appreciate that.
To feel like they have it and you're in control. Like, don't worry about it. You slipped up, it's cool.
Yeah.
You can come back the next hour, the next meal. It doesn't
Right,
have to be the
right.
next, day or
Yeah,
week.
yeah, absolutely.
It's like the next hour, make a better choice. So
Right.
I really got into that, and the reason why I became your client is because during COVID. So before I got my group exercise leader course
Yep.
certification,
Yep.
I obviously we all experienced COVID.
Yep.
And COVID for me was being locked down in a house with my parents. So it was just me and my parents. And my dad all of a sudden found this love for cooking.
Awesome.
And just
I think I remember that. You
Oh
were
my
posting some
God,
things on Instagram,
right.
weren't you?
I was.
Yeah.
And it just, I just went into it was a beautiful time for us because we really connected as a
Awesome.
family.
Yeah.
Obviously not a beautiful time as COVID.
Sure.
But I mean, he found his new passion for cooking, and I just ate everything under the sun. I was eating so much.
Yeah.
And I had gained 9 kgs.
Right.
And so coming to you, I was at my lowest point self-confidence wise.
Sure,
I was just, because let's be real, appearance is a huge part of why we not necessarily diet, because I don't want to call it a diet, necessarily make the choices we make in terms of food.
Right.
which is your diet.
Yep.
But I want to see it as more of a long-term thing, because you have to kind of think of it in that mindset.
More integrated into your lifestyle as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. And so I came to you because I saw your insane transformations, and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I need. And I know you as an amazing person and as such a warm person. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this. And that decision really impacted everything that I do right now. Like
Awesome.
I think about you all the time. Just gonna say, sorry, Rami. I think about you all the time, because every decision that I make, I'm like, oh yeah, but you know what? This is actually not high in protein, and I should get my protein. I'm like, how many grams? Because yes, we were tracking my food, and we were putting it in the My Macros app, etc. But obviously I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, that's a temporary thing. So that's what I tell most of my clients. So that phase is just it's an educational phase.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's something you need to go through just to learn the ins and outs, just have an idea about portion control, calories, like you said, protein, carbs, fat, whatever it may be. It's not something to do for life. It's a cool thing to learn, especially that there's not much education on it. And you mentioned just before that you were a little bit confused when you got into the whole food space. It's because it is confusing, right? When you go online, there's this diet, that diet. You know, nobody knows what the hell to do, basically. And that's basically when I got in, I decided, okay, I'm going to compile everything that I know and try and simplify it for people, just to make, you know, the basics well understood, whether it comes to nutrition, dieting, and all that stuff, basically.
Yeah. No, it's really helped. You made it digestible. It made it really digestible.
And I think it's important. Sorry, just one more thing, because if it's not digestible and people are, you know, flustered with their food, and just it's not sustainable, right? It comes back to being sustainable. And if something's not sustainable, sure, you can do it for a few weeks, but then you're going to end up falling off track eventually.
100%.
Yeah.
But then obviously that is on its own, like when you're in that mind space of like, I want to make good choices. Yeah. But then sometimes, which something I'm suffering with sometimes, is binge eating.
Sure.
But I know where it stems from. You see what I mean? Like I've always suffered with binge eating. Like I'd, come home from a late night and open the fridge and like go ham at the fridge.
Sure.
But now I understand why I'm binge eating. It's because I didn't have enough protein to keep me satiated. Is that the word? Yeah. I learned that from you. Throughout the day. Yeah. You know, or I'm having alcohol, which for me, then it leads to me wanting to have carbs, the cravings.
Absolutely.
So I still deal with these things. I'm definitely not perfect. I still deal with all these different, you know, cravings and binge eating and things like that. But it's not because... It comes from a place of emotions, and it comes from a place of where my headspace is at. Sure. So but I'm so hyper aware. Sure. I'm like, I know,
which is important.
Yeah, like I know, and like we were talking about this, and you know, going beyond just like your food and your diet and your exercise, but it's also like that self-awareness. Yes. Going, like taking a step back, reflecting, like what is it that makes me make these decisions, or why do I do these things, or how many hours of sleep did I have? It all affects how you eat and how you perform.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And you feel like social media pressure, Hollywood, society in general ever gets you? I know this is something I discussed with Lana, I think, on the first episode, and she shared her, you know, insights on that. Do you feel like it's something that gets you sometimes?
So there's two things. There's as part of my lifestyle, part of my job. So being a fitness instructor and not being extremely fit, and that six pack, or even like just the way that I look, plays a huge role in my insecurities. Yeah. I have major imposter syndrome on some days. Some days I'm like, it's all good. Like it's nice to be relatable. It's nice to be
absolutely
an average looking fitness instructor. But other days I'm like, oh my God. Gets to me, makes me feel, gives me anxiety before I teach a class sometimes. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get on that stage and, you know, teach a class, but they're not, are they feeling motivated by the way that I look? Because I'm also up against some insane, like the fitness industry in Dubai, as you know, because you are a fitness person, you know that like it's a very image driven industry.
Unfortunately,
you know, it's more about the before and afters, and it's all about how you look as a fitness trainer. They judge you based on
100%.
I'm going to train with you because you look good.
Yes.
And I kind of feel I want to be that person that breaks that barrier. That's like,
Sure.
I'm a fitness instructor,
Yeah.
and I do this other stuff on the side,
Right.
and I don't look like I have a six pack, and I'm not super fit and skinny. But at the same time, it plays a huge. It messes with my head a lot.
It does for everyone. Tammy. Same thing with me as well.
Yeah.
When I first got in, I knew I had the the knowledge or the know-how.
Yeah.
But at the time, I'm like, okay, if I don't look like all of these guys in the gym, nobody's going to take me seriously, right? And then that really messes with your head.
It does.
And then, like I said, when you look at social media and Hollywood and this and that, it all really can mess with you.
Yeah.
But something I've learned, Tammy, is when you look at, what's going on in Dubai or in general all over the world, imposter syndrome is what most people have when they first get into anything, right? Whoever gets into anything, whether it's a business venture or a fitness journey or whatever it is, in the beginning, it's like, okay, I feel like I'm kind of like acting or I'm not fitting the role. But what I've learned is that everybody sort of goes through that with whatever you start. So you need to just start at some point, because otherwise you're just going to stay on the sidelines saying, oh, I can never do this or never do that, just because you're worried that you may not look or be perceived as genuine.
It's self-limiting beliefs. Like, I really believe 100%. That. But so the way that I cope with that imposter syndrome is really stopping, self-reflecting, taking a breath, maybe sometimes journaling, writing down why do I feel this way.
Super important.
But it's like, it's a lot of self-work. Like, you really have to work on yourself.
100%.
You can't just let life pass you by,
100%.
which I did a lot of that in my 20s, where I would just like, let life pass me by, not do things with intention, just kind of like, it's fine. Like, these are my insecurities. I'm just going to deal with them, in my head. But if you don't really stop and take a second and reflect and think, why do I feel this way? Or even if and that process obviously works when you go to a therapist, because they break it down for you.
Right.
But if you don't do those things, you're going to just let life pass you by. Then you're going to have breakdowns and you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm so depressed. Why am I so sad? It's because you didn't give yourself that time to just take a step back, reflect, and do those things. So that's the side of where I feel imposter syndrome, which in the fitness industry, 100%.
Right.
Even now with my bar Pilates training. And when I first started, I was like, oh my God, I can't even hold the pulses for as long.
Sure.
So part of it is you go on a bar and you start pulsing. And I'm like, I can't hold the pulses for longer than, 10 seconds. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so bad. But then I start to realize that it's like, everyone has their own fitness level. And just because you're an instructor doesn't mean you have to be like the absolute best. You just have to show people that they can slowly improve over time.
100%, yeah.
So that's one side, and the other side is the industry I work in. So I'm in PR and editorial. So I do Sheerlux and Sunday Riley.
Yep.
And so in that industry, you have a lot of events. You have a lot of, places to be, people to see.
Expectations, maybe.
You look a certain way, you dress a certain way. So there's also that. I try not to let that affect me, because I feel it's very superficial to think that your appearance really matters more than other real things in the world.
Right.
Because to me, it's just such a superficial thing, but it's a thing that everyone thinks about. It's not like it's if you say it out loud, it sounds superficial, but it's not a thing that's not what's in people's heads, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. It's ingrained in people's psyches and in society, social media, like I said. So it's normal to think like that.
It's normal, but then you just have to stop.
Break out of it. Yeah.
Stop and be like, this is not important.
Yeah, 100%.
As for me to feel good in both areas, the fitness and in my industry, as long as I am moving, I genuinely will be okay. Yeah. Like me and Rami always talk, my partner, we always talk about how we're feeling in the day. We talk on the phone a lot. We were doing long distance. Now we're not. So excited.
What's up, Rami? Welcome back.
So happy. But we talk a lot, and we ask each other questions about ourselves, about our day, about how we're doing.
Sure.
And that involves, when we have bad days, we talk about why we're feeling so bad, and we really break it down for each other. Like, why are you feeling bad? And we always ask each other, well, did you work out today? Did you move today? Yeah. And if the answer is no, I'm telling you 9 times out of 10, that's why we're not feeling good. Yeah. Of course, there are much heavier things that make you feel upset and sad, but really you'll feel like that 1% better by just moving.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I feel that really helps me with that insecurity. And then it's just like, okay, I moved today.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little bit better about my insecurities.
Right, right.
Regardless of, even if I don't look different,
Sure.
but I moved, so I feel better.
No, it's super important.
Yeah.
And the point you mentioned, the importance of working on your inner self as well.
Yeah.
Because for me, at least, so in the beginning, when I first got in the industry, I had done no work on myself internally, and everything was about image, exterior, my exterior shell, the way I look, and that was it, basically. And then when I wasn't my fittest, it would be like mental breakdown, what's going on? I can't go to the beach, I can't do this, I can't do that. And it really started to mess with me, right? And then I realized, like, okay, I'm in this industry for the foreseeable future. I know I'm not going to be in tip-top condition year long every single year. So there's something that has to give, right?
Amazing that you realize that.
Because it really messes with your head. And I see it with all my colleagues as well, different personal trainers, different nutritionists. If they don't look the part, they feel that they're not credible, which is totally not the case, because it's all about your coaching skills, your knowledge, the way you can help people. But many people think it only comes down to looks, right? But I think the more that you work on yourself internally, the less importance you put on your external appearance.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so important to work on your inner self, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do much apart from, so I have a friend that does breathwork coaching, which is amazing.
Awesome. Super powerful.
I went to Snoopy Wellness, which is like this retreat, which is amazing. So you get to do like ice bath, also some breath work, just different ways to heal your body, yoga, etc.
Yeah.
But what do you do to like, what are the micro habits that you do to sustain that?
Yeah. Look, for me personally, so 1.5 years ago, I started meditation.
So
and
good.
I think it is extremely powerful, life-changing. And I think the world would be a better place if everyone was meditating. Less crimes, less wars, less everything, basically.
Yeah.
It's been super powerful for me. Yeah, like I said, I did it 1.5 years ago.
Well, like there's different forms of meditation.
There are. So I started with an app called Balance.
Oh, yeah.
It teaches you the ins and outs. I didn't even know what meditation was, so I started with a guided app. And then I sort of graduated from that, and I learned different techniques from certified teachers. And I've been doing those ever since. So currently I'm doing one called Transcendental Meditation.
Oh, yeah.
Which is super powerful.
You spoke about this on the previous episode, right?
I did, yeah. It's super powerful. I'm doing it up until now.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I sit for 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, every single day. And it's super, super life-changing, Tammy. I can't even explain to you how powerful it is. And I've gotten all my friends into it now. At first, I was like, hey, guys, I learned this. You want to check it out? They're like, oh, meditation, I don't have time for this. I have work, I have kids, I have this, I have that.
That's the biggest thing about meditation. We're like, oh, it's just like to sit and to meditate.
Yeah, like most people look at it as a waste of time, whereas in reality, that's probably one of the more important things that you can be doing in your life, right?
Yeah.
It's funny, there's a saying that says something like, everyone should be meditating for half an hour a day. Unless you're super busy, then you should be meditating for an hour a day. Which is so true. It literally works like that, right? Because it calms the mind, it stills the mind, and it does more things on a spiritual level as well. Honestly, it's been game changing for me.
I really want to do more of that because my meditation is like writing things down.
Sure.
And sure, it's helpful and it's great, but I am such an on-the-go person. I like to just like always do things and always keep busy, and I do think that would be really beneficial. So I'm definitely gonna check that out.
100%, yeah. It just helps you, slow down.
Yeah, regulate.
These days, everything is so fast-paced.
Exactly.
Everything's
and
like,
Dubai is so
Dubai
fast-paced.
and the world in general. Everything is like go, 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 go. No time to slow down.
And
we have
instant
this, we have
gratification
that.
with social media.
Instant gratification.
That TikTok
100%.
doom scroll. I'm like so guilty of that. I just
Everyone is, right? It's that dopamine rush or spike that we're all seeking, whether it's social media or like a quick vape here and there or like a drink here and there. Everybody's so on the go that meditation really helps slow you down, and it's works wonders for your mind and beyond your mind as well.
So you do it in the morning and in the evening?
Morning and evening right now.
Wow, right before bed?
So the one I'm doing is recommended to do a couple hours before you sleep.
Okay.
So I do it about like 6 p.m., 7 p.m.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then I go to bed around 10.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And I think sleep is so important as well.
Super important as well,
like,
for sure.
I notice when I don't have my full night's rest.
Yeah.
Forget it the next day. Like, I just feel like it just messes up my next day. I'll still do the activities I said I was going to do. Like, I'm still going to work out. I'm still going to.
No, but it changes things for
sure.
But
it does really change everything.
Yeah. No, I think if you're sleeping well and you're meditating on a regular basis or a daily basis if possible, yoga is something that I've incorporated into my routine as well. Yeah.
Amazing.
And I absolutely love it. I always thought yoga was just something that, helps with stretching and hip mobility and, flexibility. but it's a lot more than just
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's really powerful in the sense that it it's an energetic thing. Actually, yoga comes down to your inner energies. Again, it's more on a spiritual level as well. So yeah, the combination of meditation, yoga, sleeping well,
Strength training.
strength training is good for sure. Some cardio,
It's
eating
amazing
well.
how like expansive you are as a person.
Thank you. Thank
No,
you.
really,
It's important. I
because-
think it's important. And this is something that I'm trying to get my friends into and my clients into.
Yeah.
Because, like I said before, it was very fitness only, bodybuilding, whatever. And now I've realized that it's more important to, tailor to a
Holistic.
360 holistic approach.
Yeah.
Super important.
Yeah, and I think that's a great added value for like your clients and your friends around you. It's like it's not just about one avenue of
Yeah,
life. It's really all about.
Absolutely.
And I also really want to get into walking. I know that like I used to walk 10,000 steps a day.
Sure.
And I saw a huge change in just like my overall mood and everything.
Yeah.
And even my appearance. Like it's
Right.
crazy how much walking
Yeah,
can
100%.
benefit you.
Yeah, just getting moving basically.
Moving. It's
Yeah.
all about the movement for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
No, and I think that like going back to like the way that you eat as well, something that I learned is also like what you taught me is the protein in the beginning of your day really helps with like the sugar cravings and everything like that.
does,
So that's another, I wanted to mention that. That
Sure.
was another reason. That was another thing that I really learned from you. There's a
Yeah.
lot of things that you instilled in me
Yeah.
that just really helped me
Sure,
throughout
sure.
my life.
Yeah. No, I'm so happy to hear that. I'm happy
Which
to
is
hear
really
that.
like, and when you can do that, when you can impact someone like that, it's life changing, literally.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah. So back to healing. Any other things you've done in terms of any other healing modalities that you're into or that you've tried?
Yeah, so like I said, so my friend Dima, she does breath work,
Mm-hmm.
and she was really into yoga, and then she
What
moved-
type of breath work?
I wish I could tell you the name, but it's
Was it holotrophic by any chance?
oh my god, I have no idea. But what is holotrophic? Do you
It's
know?
a super powerful type of breath
Oh,
work. It's the
wow.
only type of breath work that I've done.
Tell me more.
I will, because it was super powerful. I did it in Bali last year.
So cool.
Yeah, I mentioned it on the second episode with Laura as well, but
Yeah.
I'll briefly touch into it. Essentially, you get there and the instructor's like, okay, this is going to be sort of like a psychedelic experience, right? I was like, okay, how does this work? She's like, yeah, similar to something that, maybe you'd experience on maybe LSD or ayahuasca or whatever it is.
Wow, but just breath.
But through the power of your breath. So I was like, okay, at first I was skeptical, saying, okay, let's see what this is all about.
Yeah.
Tammy, we get there, she puts us in a circle, teaches us the technique, and she plays some spiritual music.
Right.
And she gives us some sort of like mantra in the beginning. It was something like, may I see what I need to see, may I feel what I need to feel, to heal what I need to heal, to help those that need help.
Oh, amazing.
And then she plays the music, and we start the breathwork technique.
Right.
And within seconds, Tammy, we were a group of 9 people. It was just chaos in there.
No.
People were crying, people were screaming,
Oh my
people were
God.
shaking.
Wow.
It's just a huge trauma release, essentially,
Just by the power of the breath.
just by the power of
Is
the
it like
breath.
Wim Hof? It's not.
Not exactly.
No.
Not exactly.
Because I also experienced that in a setting.
Yeah.
And I found that to be like really powerful.
Yeah,
that,
it is. It is. Wim
Yeah.
Hof is good as well, but it's a
But
different
this
type.
sounds like it's like a
Super
proper,
powerful. Yeah, it's a huge
Wow.
energetic release.
Wow.
Yeah, so it brings up all the debris from our stuffed stored emotions and lets it all out basically. Super powerful.
Yeah.
At first I wasn't getting into it. I thought maybe, okay, it's not going to work for me. And then the instructor came around and saw that my breathing technique was slightly off.
Oh wow.
She fixed it,
She knew.
and then boom, explosion of tears,
No
Tammy. Yeah,
way!
literally, like I couldn't believe it. I was sobbing like a 3-year-old boy.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So it was uncontrollable. Like it was literally
Uncontrollable,
just how
but
you
it felt so good, and you could feel the release, right? You could
That's
feel like
amazing.
all the stuffed emotions, like I said, getting out, all the trauma getting out. It was just such a profound and powerful experience.
It's insane the power of the breath, what it can do.
100%.
Like,
And that's what
it's-
meditation is not fully about, but is somewhat connected to the power of the breath. And it's
sure.
super, super
Because you
important.
slow down and you control it, right?
Yeah,
Like that's what my
absolutely.
friend Dima's breath work, I wish I knew what it was, but it was more like it's things I can incorporate in my day to day.
Sure.
So like inhaling and exhaling through my right nostril, left
Yes,
nostril,
yeah.
like these are the sort of things.
Pranayama.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
one.
Yeah. yeah.
I'm like, do I know it? I don't
Yeah.
know it. And it really helps with anything. It really just helps you just calm down.
Yeah.
and it makes you make decisions that are better also.
Yeah,
Like when
yeah.
you know you have like a decision to make,
Yeah.
or when you're feeling overwhelmed by a decision. And I'm like
Yes.
extremely indecisive as a person,
Right,
so
right.
it just really helps with that.
Yeah.
And then
Mental clarity,
exactly,
creativity, intuition,
totally,
all of that.
And I thought that I would get into yoga. I was into it for a bit, but then I stopped. Basically, this me coming here is me. It's me to get inspired by the wellness aspect and wanting to incorporate more of it into my life, because I know that there are so many benefits. It's like I'm not a skeptical person about this stuff. Like I'm not at all skeptical. I know for a fact this is extremely beneficial. And
100%. Plus, yoga, Tammy, what I've learned, so it's not just the asanas that we know and the Western studios, like the, wear your Lululemon and go into the, I mean, that's fantastic, but it's much broader than just that.
Absolutely.
Right? You can learn classical forms of yoga. So there's something called Hatha yoga, which is the most original classical form of yoga.
Right.
And that is super, super powerful.
Is that what you do?
I tried it once, but it's not something that I'm fully into yet.
Right.
I'm actually planning to go to an ashram at some point this year.
No, that's amazing.
This year in India.
Where in India?
Either in Bangalore or in Coimbatore. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Yeah. So I'm gonna
an ashram where you do you not speak, or is it one of those? Or?
No, not one of those. It's not the silent retreats. So that I'm actually planning to do in Ras Al Khaimah.
Are you?
Yeah, that I'm planning to do in Ras Al Khaimah at some point.
That's insane.
The silent.
They have that in Ras Al Khaimah.
Yeah.
Well, how long is it?
It's a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I've heard crazy things about it. I have a friend in Montreal that's done it twice, and he speaks super highly of it. I've also read into the benefits of it.
Yeah.
So you go for 10 days. Essentially, they teach you a very traditional, I think it stems from the Buddhist tradition, if I'm not mistaken. And they teach you basically a type of meditation for 10 days. And apparently, as soon as you leave that retreat, you can feel a difference. Like your life has changed, basically. Yeah.
And it's 10 days.
10 days. That one is 10 days.
And you don't have any, obviously, no phones.
No phones, nothing to write
books.
on. You shouldn't make eye contact with anybody.
No eye contact?
Preferably not. Yeah.
That's like my nightmare. I'm like, I'm such a social person.
Yeah.
Wow, but I probably needed the most. Actually, you know what's so funny? My friends, Janine, you know Janine, she always tells me, like, I'm going to send you to a silent retreat, like, because I talk so much. She's like, I'm sending you to a silent retreat.
Yeah, no, it's super important. I think it's something that I'm looking forward to doing. Yeah. What else is there?
But you're going to a yoga one.
Yeah, so the ashram is where they teach you different forms of meditation and yoga.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's more of like a holistic experience. You also do some service work. They call that seva, which is basically, you're either cooking for the ashram or cleaning, scrubbing toilets.
Because I saw this on Eat, Pray, Love, so I'm
familiar. No, I haven't watched that actually. Yeah.
Like it's the most basic movie ever.
Yeah, yeah.
But she was in an ashram, and I saw that. And I actually I know someone who has been to a silent retreat ashram thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like butchering the way that I'm saying it. But,
but one of those things.
Yeah, it's so bad to say, but no. But she really suffered in terms of like, not suffered, but she really found it challenging.
Sure.
It's a very challenging.
Oh, for sure.
That's where you break through. Like when you get out of your comfort zone, that's 100%. Where you see the change happening. That's where you see like the results happen.
100%.
And that's where at any aspect of my life, if I challenge myself professionally, if I challenge myself with nutrition, if I challenge myself through fitness, that's where I see the results.
Yeah, that's how you grow as
when
well.
When you're in a comfort zone, like I feel like that's your biggest thing right now, because you're going into that wellness realm.
Yeah.
You're challenging yourself in ways that you didn't think.
Yeah, putting yourself in, new territory, in uncomfortable positions. But I think that's being vulnerable, super important. Being honest with yourself, being honest with your past. I think that's super important. And that's just how you grow, basically. So me going to this ashram, it's something that I've never even done anything remotely close to. Yeah. But I'm just going to fling myself there at some point.
Amazing.
And just get with the whole experience. Like I said, whatever it is, whether it's, scrubbing toilets or whatever it is, I think it also grounds you, makes you humble. Yeah. Starts destroying the ego, which I think Which
is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Ego in general is like your biggest enemy, I think.
Yeah. Look, I mean, it serves a purpose. Again, this is on the whole spiritual level. It serves a purpose. The ego is mainly for survival and to have an identity in the world. But when you have an inflated ego, that's not a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And the more you can, knock your ego down, the more your just authentic, honest self comes out. And life is lived so much better that way. When you're constantly trying to maintain a certain image and you have a big ego and you're trying to worry what everybody thinks about you, it's just a tiring process to like always be worried about protecting that self-image.
Yeah.
Um,
How do you deal with like that ego aspect and like
how do you like dwell it down,
yeah,
basically?
how do
It's
you
through spiritual work, so
yeah.
stuff like, meditation helps with that. Being in service to people or in devotion to something, charity work, just, yeah,
Anything
get,
that like humbles you and makes
yeah,
you feel
like I said, anything spiritual, or giving from the bottom of your heart, trying to help without wanting anything in return.
yeah, the
That's
expectation of
exactly,
return. Yeah.
without the expectation of return, just doing
Totally.
things from the good of your heart to help people. Yeah, that's how you essentially start to dwell down the ego. And something
Yeah.
I realized, Tammy, is, life, the first portion of our life is spent building the ego and building this, and we're growing in our career, and we want this and we want that, and we're, ever since we're born, we're conditioned into thinking, okay, so you got to go to school, got to get the best grades, got to go to university, get the best marks, the best job, the best career, the best cars, the best houses. That's what's ingrained in our brains
Totally.
from day one, essentially. It's like go, go, go. And we're in this rat race, essentially, a blind rat race, right? We're running up this ladder.
Yeah.
And then at some point you realize, like, oh, wait, hey, I think I'm climbing up the wrong ladder. And oftentimes you'll find that people that go on this ladder realize at some point in their life, like, oh, wait, this isn't fulfilling me. This isn't actually making me happy. What everybody says is the idea of success or
Right.
happiness isn't actually the case, or at least it's not working for me,
Yeah.
right? And that's when people get midlife crisis, is because they realize, oh shit, I've been doing this for 40 years or 50 years, and actually this is not what, that's not the direction that I want to be going in. It's
Exactly.
just that what's been instilled in my mind through societal conditioning. So yeah, once you realize that,
Yeah.
then you can sort of change your life and start to focus on different goals. And at that point, you start, like I said, knocking the ego back down. So it's like
Yeah.
in the first half of your life, you're kind of building it up, and then you realize like that's not really the way to go, and then you start to dwell it down.
And how do you think that, well, I mean, that's going to change a lot for the new generation, right? Because
Yes.
I feel like the new generation are they're more hyper aware
Yes.
of these different things, and they have
100%.
access to all these different tools.
Yes.
They have access to this podcast, which,
Yeah.
for example, we didn't have growing up, right? We didn't have
Yeah.
these like inspirational or informative avenues to get to refer to. So it's interesting to see how, or I'd be curious to see how the future generations start to navigate through that, because
yeah.
I think in this region, in the Middle East, maybe it's still in that, we're still in that mindset of like climbing the career ladder. And
Yeah,
all
look, I
these
mean,
different
you'll find a bit of both. I realized in every country, right?
in every place, yeah.
Every place you'll have people that are, trying to build up their ego, and then people realizing that that's not the way to go, and then sort
Yeah.
of like knocking it back and just being more authentic, more,
Yeah.
just seeking a path that actually fulfills them,
Yeah.
that's true to their self.
And not like societal pressures as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what healing is all about. It's returning to who you actually are before society told you who to be.
Totally.
Right? Because when we grow up, it's like, oh, you have to do
Mic
this. You have
drop.
to. Yeah. Yeah.
So true.
No, but it's true. It really
Yeah.
is. We're told you have to, be an engineer, or at least I was, or whatever it is.
Oh my God, yeah, you pivoted completely from where you were.
Yeah, because I was in that path, and then every time I realized that it wasn't for me, I would try to like get out of it,
Yeah.
and then I would change jobs and change this and change that. I sort of kept fighting my way out of that until I finally found a place where I feel very authentically myself, doing a career that I am passionate about, that's able to help people. Although when I first got into it, everybody's like, dude, what are you doing?
Really?
You're
You
an
got a
engineer.
backlash,
Of course,
yeah.
yeah, of course. From all of my friends, some family members.
Especially because you're going from like an engineer type
Exactly.
role,
They're like, oh,
big multinational,
big
da-da-da.
multinational, McGill, GPA,
Yeah,
engineer,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. They're like, what are you doing, dude? I was like, honestly, this is
So
what's...
good that you stuck through, because
Yeah, it
it
was,
really takes courage to do that.
Yeah, it did. I just, at that point, I thought, okay, I'm not happy where I am, so
Yeah.
I have nothing to lose anymore, right?
Yeah.
Because I was miserable where I was before. So I was like, okay, so if I'm in rock bottom now, there's only going
Can
up
only
from
go
here,
up.
right?
Yeah, that's a good way to approach it, because a lot of people will not see the light. They'll just be like, this is what my life is, and I just have to deal with it.
Yeah, and I see some
it's not the
people, Tammy, sort of get stuck in a life that they're not happy with because
Yeah.
they're afraid to make a change, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, no, this is just where I am now. I can't change my job. I've been here for 10 years, so like it's going to be a waste of time. And, I put in all that effort and sacrifice.
Or they have a certain lifestyle that they want to upkeep that they're just like, no, but I can't change the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it's like,
So they look at their, the time that they've invested as like, okay, we've invested all this time, so I can't get rid of that now.
Yeah.
But the truth is, if you've invested all that time and you're still not happy, you're just going to keep on investing more time
100%.
and remain more unhappy,
100%.
basically.
Yeah.
So at some point, you have to make that change to fall into an avenue that just resonates with you. And
that goes back to slowing down, meditating,
100%.
journaling. I think when you start to really do that inner work, you will find answers.
100%.
Because you're not really, maybe you're not seeking the answers. Maybe you're just like letting life pass you by. But
100%.
the minute you slow down,
yeah,
you will get the answers you need. And I know that's sometimes I need that. I need to slow down because I go at life at 100 miles an hour.
Sure.
But I think it's a really important lesson that like we should all take from this is that if you slow down and you give yourself as much time for yourself and for your inner healing as you do for other people or whatever your work or whatever it is, your family, you will start to get the answers that you didn't even know that you needed.
100%.
So yeah, I love that.
No, you're right. Because also, touching on your point, Tammy, meditation, another benefit besides all the other benefits is that it starts the deconditioning process of the mind. So all the conditioning we've been through,
right?
You start to unbind and unlearn things that may not resonate with you anymore. Right. And the minute you dull down that conditioning, you're getting closer and closer to your intuition. And your intuition, it's not just a word that's like, follow your intuition. It's an actual thing, right? I look at it as your soul's internal compass, and it actually directs you to where you should be going. I know it sounds very hula-ha, but it's quite true.
No, but I really believe it. I mean, I think you really do know what you need.
Yeah.
But if you just listen to yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
But listening to yourself is a whole process.
So that's the thing, right? You need to actually, like you said, listen to yourself. And how do you listen to yourself? By slowing down.
Yeah.
Clearing or blocking out all the external noise, things that we've learned in the past. Ever since, like I said, we go back to childhood, from our families' teachings to our schools' teachings, universities, friends, societies, religions, politics, governments. All of that is conditioning that may or may not resonate for you specifically, right?
Yeah.
And then you have hordes of people going in a certain direction because that's what they've been taught to go. And then they realize at some point that it's not necessarily for them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that work that takes to unlearn, to change the way that you think and remove the conditioning that you had, it takes a lot of work. But also because for example, I live with my parents currently, and love my parents, love the relationship that I have with them.
Yeah.
But
your parents are super cool.
Super cool parents, love them. But still, they instill their ways without even thinking about it, right? Like this is
subconscious.
Who they are.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important thing to talk about because a lot of Arab, I would say more women than men, live with their parents after university, right? It's very common to live with your parents until you're married, let's say.
Sure.
And so I think that it is a huge thing where you're trying to do all this work, but then you also live in a household where they just look at you like they're your baby. And so it's also about learning to deal with that aspect as well and trying to incorporate that in your environment, which sometimes can be a challenge because
it is.
You're just kind of like, working on yourself. And then you're just wondering like, why isn't my dad working on himself? Or why isn't my mom working on herself?
Yeah.
But then it's also like navigating through that. But it's all relatable because we live in this society where that's the case.
Sure.
But I think it's also super important to stick to it regardless of your environmental factors.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's probably the most important thing to do is to get back in touch with your authentic self and just live a life that fulfills you, even though it may not make sense to other people.
Exactly. And that's a really important thing, I think, to take away from that.
Yeah, 100%.
I love that for you. That's amazing that you do that.
Thank you, Tammy.
You've really inspired me.
Thank you.
I'm going to leave this. I'm going to go do I really will look into the meditation.
Do it. And if you want after this, we can talk a little bit more about it. I can teach you a few things. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, I think we're almost done for time, Tammy. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for sharing everything that you did today. And I
loved it. Thanks, Roy.
You're welcome.
You're amazing.
You're welcome.
I want everyone to know how great you are.
Thank you.
It's like, yes.
You're awesome. Thanks, Tammy.
Thanks, Roy.
Thank you.